What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another day, the Endgame podcast. Host 30 and still getting. How is everyone doing? On today's episode, we're going to be talking about Moon Knight episode 2. If you haven't seen the episode yet, spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. Do not watch this. Come back after the fact. The live version of this will be right now over on 30 and Still Gaming, which is the channel that you're on now. After the fact, if you're watching this, it will be over on Nerding with 30. So, those of you that don't know what the show is, the Endgame Podcast is a podcast that goes over Marvel shows. This is a show just based on the Disney Plus show Moon Knight. We had episode 1 posted up last week over on Nerding with 30. I cut out the talk show part afterwards. So basically what we do on this show is right now I just go over a brief, I'd say about 20, 30 minutes of my thoughts, speculations, theories, and stuff of the episode. What I liked, what I noticed, and then after that, we go into talking with you all in chat that are here live, and then you guys can call in and we have conversations. Then we go into more speculation of Marvel and everything else after the fact. If you like what you see here, you can help us out by hitting that subscribe button. It's absolutely free over here on YouTube. You can hit that follow button over on Twitch. It's absolutely free over there. If you'd like to go above and beyond that, you can do super chats, you can do memberships, you can do subscriptions, or you can use your Twitch or Amazon Prime over there as well. I appreciate everyone coming out. How's everyone doing? What's going on, Krebsy, Gritter, Devon? How's everyone doing? So again, spoiler alert, Moon Knight episode 2. We don't show any footage or anything on here because we don't want to get hit by the YouTube gods, MCAs and stuff. So this is what we do. All right, so spoiler is down. Let's get into. We have chat over here. What's going on, Gritter? All right, so this episode I liked. I don't want to go into too much of it, but right off the bat. But so far, 2 episodes strong for Moon Knight episode 2. It starts off with Steve Grant. You hear the sounds of the beating of Moon Knight beating the I don't know what you call a jackal, demon jackal, or whatever you want to call it. And then he wakes up and runs out of bed, and then he gets pulled back because of his chains on him. And then he opens up his cabinet mirror and looks at himself. And what I like about this shot is that I know nothing. Again, I know nothing of Moon Knight, the character. Okay? I know nothing of it. I'm going into the show completely brand new from last week to this week. I watched some after I do this show. I go back and I watch other people's reviews and stuff like that to kind of fill in the gaps of maybe things that I missed or didn't know, or call outs or callbacks of whatnot for the comic, for other people's theories and whatnot. But going into this show, episode 2, and doing this show for you guys, I don't watch anything. I don't read anything. I watch the show. I give you my thoughts. And then after the fact, I talk with you guys in Discord and whatnot. There's a shot of him opening the mirror, and he looks inside the mirror. And he looks at himself. It's like one-on-one, right? And they've done this in the first episode, and they do this a lot with reflections and stuff like that because of his multiple what do you call it? Where he thinks he's more people. I can't think of the word. It's not a disability. Disorder, multiple personality disorder. So it shows him, and then all of a sudden the camera moves to his left, okay? And then it moves to basically our right. Yeah, split personality. Thank you, Sean. And you can start seeing another reflection and then another reflection. You see 3 reflections. So I'm thinking to myself, obviously going off of IMDb and our conversations that we had last week, Oscar Isaac is only playing Steve Grant and Mark Spector. And I think, because in the comics that I've learned, there's 3 personalities. And in the show, there's only seems to be 2. But yet they keep showing. In the first episode, they showed 3 personalities. They showed 3 reflections, I should say. And now they're showing 3 reflections yet again. So I think going forward, we might get a third personality. Okay? Right. A third personality going forward. Now, another cool shot is that he basically talks to himself in the thing, and then he walks and you see him going into the museum. And what I liked about this was it was like a top down shot. So you're looking, the camera's above him and he's walking into the museum. And then all of a sudden it follows him down and it turns upside down. So he's walking into the museum, but you're seeing him walking in upside down, which I thought was really cool because I think at this point, because of what happened in episode 1 and then what's happening in episode 2, his life, his world is now about to go upside down, right? Because now he's seen what he's seen, he knows what he knows, and now he's starting to unravel other things. So I really thought this was a cool shot, just all together. So then he goes up and he sees the guy, a plumber coming out. And obviously he's like, oh shoot, it wasn't a dream. It actually happened. So then he thinks, okay, well, they caught it. They caught it all on film. He goes up to the security guard and he starts to say what happened. He's like, oh, someone, vandalized the loo or whatever. Then he goes into this security station and he looks at videotape. And all he sees is himself running through the museum with nobody chasing him, which we kind of figure out later why the cameras didn't pick up the demon jackal or whatever you want to call it, dog type creature. The security guard still calls him Scotty, which maybe this is a rough thing in my head right now. Maybe the security guard calls him Scotty multiple times. Maybe that's his third personality that we don't know. I don't know. Maybe? What do you guys think? Let me know in the chat and in the comments down below. I don't know if that's a character. I don't believe it's a character from the comics, but we'll go into something a little bit later in the show, which is not also from the comics as well. So as he's looking through the footage, he doesn't see anything, and Isaac's thinking to himself, or I should say Steve Grant's thinking to himself, I'm completely mad. I'm crazy. And then it gets tossed into his bosses or into the security office, and they fire him. They fire him, which is understandable. They're not pressing charges. They're not doing anything like that. And the boss starts talking to him, or the security guard starts talking to him and telling him that we're not pressing charges at all. Another cool shot, again, this whole show has to do a lot with reflections here, reflections there. There's a shot of him talking to the security guard or the head of the museum, and then all of a sudden you see a reflection in the desk. So as you're looking at Steve Grant, you see the other reflection, and obviously it's Steve at that time because it's moving at the same time. But every time you see a reflection, it could always be Mark Spector there as well. Lots of Egyptian things all around. You see the pictures in the background. You see the paperweight on the table, the pyramid. Lots of little hints of the gods or whatnot that they're, Ethan Hawke's character, Arthur, is being possessed by. Also, Khonshu, who Steve or Mark Spector is being taken by. So it's interesting to see these little, I guess, Easter eggs type of stuff, whatnot. So he asks for anything on him. He doesn't have anything on him except his name tag. He takes his name tag off, turns it in. And I think this is more of him dealing with, he's giving up himself, right? He's kind of letting go of himself and then giving it away to them. It's more of a, then we see him outside talking to the gold statue guy again. The gold statue guy, again, just standing there, being a statue. And he's talking to him like a therapist. I don't know if this guy is going to be something more. I want to say like episode, maybe next episode, maybe not, maybe the 4th episode. All of a sudden, this dude like starts to talk back to him. Maybe he goes off on him, like, get away from me. You've been telling me all this stuff or whatever. Or maybe he knows more about stuff. Maybe it'll be his, like, I don't know, his actual helper. I don't know. It just seems weird that he keep going back to this guy, this statue guy, and he has nothing of importance to do because he doesn't say anything. But he is acting really important because Steve is stressed out, man. He's freaking out. He has no one to talk to. He's got no friends. No one believes him. He's a nut job. And yet this guy doesn't judge him. He doesn't judge him. Just stands there being a statue, and just sometimes that's what everyone needs. They just need someone to listen, right? So he's not doing much, but he's doing a whole lot. Doing a whole lot because Steve is just pouring out his heart and what's in his head, and this guy is just listening. Then he hugs him, and he does look at him like what the hell's going on, right? So I thought this was interesting. I thought this was an interesting aspect of the show. He like blinks, kind of looks at him, and then he walks off. Now, what if he's the one above all, or the original avatar of Khonshu? Maybe he could be something along those lines, Krebsy. I don't know. I just feel like he's somebody. We do find out Arthur was Khonshu possessed him. So we'll see. So as Steve walks, he finds the key in his pocket because when he was emptying his pockets, he found the cell phone and the key. So then he starts to think, well, maybe I'll go to the storage place. And he goes to the storage place. He starts saying, hey, it should be it's not under Steve. It should be under Mark. And the guy's like, I know you. Yeah, 43. So I thought this was pretty interesting as well. Now, what I thought was pretty cool, as they walk up to the storage container, there was a QR code on the door, and I scanned it. I was like, it's a QR code. So it's the first comic that Moon Knight appears in from like 1975, and it links to where you can get your free trial of the Marvel Unlimited, which I think is pretty cool. Again, cross promotion is great. You guys know how I think about that between the games and whatnot. I always feel that they should link to something. So they link to, hey, you don't know Moon Knight? You can start here. This is where Moon Knight is. So I might jump in and start reading the Moon Knight comics. This is a good advertisement, in my opinion. So QR code, boom, pop it up, and then you can start reading the first comic that he appeared in. I thought it was very cool. The QR code updates weekly. At least it was different last week. Awesome. Did I miss the QR code last week? Where was the QR code last week, Krebsy? I totally missed it from last week. So as he walks into this storage container, this is more cryptic type stuff in my head, right? Because he's walking into a storage container he doesn't know, which is Mark Spector, right? So this is like walking into his cavern or his section of the brain of him, right? Like as he's walking into this place, he knows nothing of this. This is all about Mark Spector. He walks in, and I love the way this scene, it's very plain, but yet very cool because there's reflections everywhere, every wall. Next to the coffin, little girl and Steve interact. I got you. So as he walks in, he starts to see, you see the pelican cases, you see sleeping cot, you see lots of stuff that would represent what Mark, as a mercenary, as a military guy. He opens up a passport. And what I thought was interesting, now last week I talked about when this takes place. Okay, when this takes place. Now, obviously, I said this takes place April to June of some year. Okay. Now, if you zoom in on the actual passport, it says reissued December 15th, 2028. Now, I don't know where it lies in how many years, Krebs, have you been keeping what year is like Spider-Man taking place, and what year is other things taking place right now? Is it 2025, 2026? What is the actual year? But he renewed his passport in 2028. Or no, he has to renew in 2028. He renewed it. I'm sorry. It was issued December 14th of 2018. Every 10 years, at 2028 is when he has to establish it. So he wasn't boinked from the timeline. Hawkeye's 2024. I meant the actual 2018 is when. So he didn't get snapped. Okay, he didn't get snapped because he reissued his passport when the people were already snapped. So we know that Mark Spector was alive and didn't get snapped from the timeline, okay, for those 5 years because of his passport, okay, because he has to renew it in 2028, okay. The snap happened in, what, June, July of 2018, did it not? So that to me confirms that he didn't get snapped and that he's also part of, not exactly, but he's attached to the MCU, right? So it makes the show not involved in the current MCU. Well, no, it does, meaning that he didn't get snapped and he just lived his life as normal, right? As a military guy, right? So technically it's still, but he just didn't get snapped. Just like Black Widow, just, you know what I mean? Just like Captain America, none of them got snapped. He didn't get snapped at the same thing. Mark Spector didn't, right? So he looks and he finds the passport, he finds the money, he finds the scarab, he finds the gun, he finds all this stuff, right? The scarab starts to float, and then all of a sudden Mark starts talking to him through the reflections of the whole thing and says, just take a nap, let me take over, let me finish this whole thing, and let's move on. What month is on the passport? December. I believe it's December 18th, if I'm not mistaken. It is December 14th. December 14th of 2018. What's going on, Milky? Did Marvel ever answer what happened to people who were snapped back, were on boat or plane? They didn't. There's a lot of loopholes, Loki. There's a lot of loopholes and stuff like that. I mean, you would have to assume, I can go real quick, right? So if a plane's in the sky, one of the captains disappears, someone takes over the plane, or it just falls out of the sky and kills everybody, right? They would get snapped back, and their bodies would be in the rubble, where it crashed. Okay, or it got saved and it gets landed down. Okay, when it gets snapped, all of a sudden, boom! Whoever's on that airplane, now there's two people sitting in that seat, or so on and so forth. In my head, anyway. They did. They said that they went to the closest safe location. Oh, did they? That sounds pretty lame. So as Mark's talking to him, all of a sudden Steve's like, "No, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take this. I'm going to take all the information. I'm going to go to the local authorities, and I'm going to turn myself in, and I'm going to lock myself up, and you're never going to be around." And all of a sudden, Khonshu doesn't like that. So all of a sudden, he starts making lights flash, starts running down the hallway. All of a sudden, he sees Khonshu. Khonshu's running at him. Yeah, that seems convenient. Yeah. So as Steve runs out, he lands in front of, on the street, and he almost gets hit by a woman on a scooter, which we find out is Leia. Leia? Leia. I think it's Leia. Or is it Leia? Not sure. Anyway, we find out as he's holding on for dear life that he's an absolute pussy. He doesn't know anything. He's freaking out. He's going crazy. She's talking to him and saying, you know, you've been gone. You haven't called my calls. You know, I'm your wife. And he's like, wait a minute, you're my wife? So now this is the character that we're talking about. I looked up to see if Moon Knight was married, and the character Leia is not in the comics. She's a made-up character for this show. Okay? They made her for this show. And as we find out later in the episode, Khonshu has already selected her as if Mark or Steve can't do the job and he doesn't need the rights to their body anymore, that he will possess her instead. Which I kind of see. I kind of see it happening, but we'll see. So, goes back to his place. She walks in and is like, who are you living here with? He's like, nobody. You know, it's just me. And she's like, you're staying here by yourself? And he's like, yeah. Oh, you're talking to your mother again? Yeah, we're good. So she's trying to figure out what the hell's going on because he's been here for months, months. And now the way I'm thinking of is that he goes in and out of consciousness. Now, I don't know because later on in the episode, Steve gets trapped in the other realm, in the reflection world, I guess I can call it, and Mark is out. So how long was Mark out and Steve in? And how long was Steve out and Mark in? Okay. To in my head, I think Mark is the person that's out. Before we met Steve, I think Mark was out in the world more than what Steve is. Okay. I think Steve just came out recently and he's just completely lost. And when he goes back in, he doesn't really remember what's going on because I think Steve is a split personality of Mark, not Mark split personality of Steve, if that makes sense, right? I don't know if that makes sense to you guys, but that's what I think. I think Mark is the main guy. Steve is the secondary guy that he created. And then all of a sudden, Steve took over and put Mark in that realm, is what I feel. Okay. Because obviously, if he's married, they had an adventure together, they were on dig sites together, they know a bunch of stuff going on, right? They like the scarab is what they were going for, right? So it's interesting to me how this all goes. But I feel that Mark is the main character and Steve is the character that is showing us, the viewers, telling us the story of Moon Knight and Mark and stuff like that. He's completely lost. He's completely skewed. He doesn't know what's going on. It's very confusing. That's us, the viewers. The viewers are Steve, right? But really, Mark Spector is the main guy. This is why we need the origin story episode. I don't think so. As a person that knows nothing about this, Sean, and I'm sure you know more because you read the comics, I think that the 2 episodes that have happened so far, telling the story, I think they're doing a fantastic job by peeling off the layers and letting us know what the characters are, right? The first episode was about Steve and introducing us, and at the very end, they bring in Moon Knight and Mark, right? In this episode, we now know who Mark is, right? We know more about Mark because we know of the storage locker. We know that Leia is his wife, and so on and so forth. So now you're peeling off the layers of story for Mark Spector, and we also know more about Khonshu now, right? So they're having a conversation. They read this poem in French that they're both their favorite. Okay, they're both their favorite. That's what I'm thinking, Milky. Like, I think Mark Spector is the body that he got killed in action or something, and Khonshu took over his body because of the vessel. His body is a vessel, right? So he's been dead, and he's just doing his bidding because that's what Khonshu wants him to do, right? Khonshu, what I could tell in this, as Ethan, as we get in the episode later in the episode, Ethan says how he was Khonshu's vessel or avatar, and how he's a very evil person, but yet he's the lesser of evils compared to the other god that's now going around, killing and sacrificing people, especially after the conversation we'll get to. Okay. So you can see as they're unlaying the onions here, they're talking about the hieroglyphics and that's how it's an alphabet. And you can see that he's seeing that how much she knows, and obviously Mark knows as well. So it's like, where does Steve come in? Like, what does Steve bring to the table? And I think Steve is more smart as far as it comes to geeky stuff, as far as the Egyptian stuff, but Mark knows about the stuff as well. This is why I think that Steve, yes, is a personality of Mark, Steve, Moon Knight, Khonshu, but I believe that Steve's character's purpose, at least as far as the story goes for the Disney Plus series, is that he is the vessel not only for Khonshu, not only for Mark, but also for us, the viewers, right? We are unraveling it as he's unraveling it, if that makes any sense, right? So as he goes through, she says, "Here, I brought you the papers. I want to get divorced." Now, why would Mark want to get divorced from her? Right? We find out that he's trying to protect her. This is the reason that he wants to get a divorce. And then all of a sudden, he wants to show her everything and show her the scarab. And all of a sudden, Mark comes in and says, "Don't do it. Don't show her it. If you do, it's on you. Her blood's on your hands." I believe he uses. He pushes. He stops and says, "Nothing, nothing. I don't want to show you." He goes in the bag, brings out the scarab, and says, "This. You're taking this. You have this. You're keeping it for yourself. We did this. And she starts unraveling this whole thing. Like, we had all the adventures we went on. We did all this stuff. So, and he's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I have no idea. I wish I did, but I don't. I don't know anything about what you're saying. Then all of a sudden, agents knock on the door. He says, "They're here. They're after me." And she's like, "For what?" He says, "For wrecking the Lou." Um, so he opens the door, and there's two agents there, and obviously they're not officers. If they were, they busted in his door. They kind of barge in, and then they arrest him. Which I was like, these guys can't be cops. They can't come in with no warrant, search his place, find evidence, and then all of a sudden take him in. So I was like, oh, this has got to be something, and it is, right? So he gets taken, and when he um, gets taken to Arthur's city block or cult or whatever he is, right? So she starts to talk about and giving more information about Mark Spector. The back seat, she's looking up information, and Mark Spector is a military person. He's done, special ops and all this other stuff. So now we're getting more information about who Mark Spector is. He's a badass, where Steve is just a nobody. Okay, which I thought was pretty interesting. Then we pull up and we see this girl. She's got the tattoo of the scales on her body, and he's like, "Oh, it's one of those people. They're all, uh, they're all together." I like this part, right? I like how Ethan Hawke comes up, or Arthur, and starts to talk to him. And it's like no big deal. He's trying to get on his good side. He's showing all the good, right? Because all bad guys think they're doing everything for the good, right? Oh, I'm bringing back this god so we can have peace and humanity, even though he's killing people left and right, right? Gonna be no crime, but meanwhile they're murdering people left and right. Okay, starts to walk around. It's a peaceful community. There used to be crime here, but now it's so peaceful, right? As he's introducing the neighborhood and what his villain plans are, basically unraveling what he's doing. He's also starts to tell Steve about, I understand what you're going through. He's telling you right now. What is he telling you? To kill me? Right? What's he telling you? To do this? He's like, says all these voices in your head. Khonshu chose you as his avatar because you're weak-minded, right? Maybe you were already broken while he took you, and this is why he took over you. And then you can hear Khonshu say something along the lines, um I do it because it what does he say? Oh, he's like talking to him, and he says something like, kill him, right? And he's like, is he telling you to kill me? Is he telling you to kill me? Break his windpipe, he says. Uh, he goes, I would love to show you around the neighborhood. And he does start showing him around the neighborhood. A guy's growing vegetables in the garden. Everyone's so peaceful, and everyone's all loving and dovey. There's like this weird conversation going on, and I think Ethan Hawke is playing a really good character. He's playing this very subdued psycho, basically. I mean, he is. He's a psycho. He's a person that's possessed. He's walking around with glass in his shoes. Uh, he's murdering people because of they're being chosen based on their, it's like Minority Report, on their future and whatnot, right? So he comes in, he's like, oh, you should try, he's playing soccer. He's like, you should try my soup. I made it today, right? He's speaking Mandarin to certain people. He says that they speak 3 different languages. They all teach each other. Everyone's in very harmonized area. They're all kind of like cult. It's cult-like. It's a religion type of thing here. Try the lentil soup. He sits down and he starts to talk to him. And then he gets to telling that Khonshu likes to throw temper tantrums and that he's evil. But yet says this is why Khonshu was banished by the other gods, by the other disciples stuff. And as he sits, he starts to tell the story of real justice and that he used to be the avatar for Khonshu, and then he got out of that, and then Amet is the one that's now possessing him, and he's trying to bring her back, and this is why he needs Scarab. Okay, but as he's telling this, says, so you're judged based on the future of you and no matter what you've done, right? So all of a sudden, Steve brings up, so wait, how does that work with kids? Like the kids, they get judged. They're just kids, so they're gonna kill some kids because 30 years from now they're gonna be, basically, um, you know, you're gonna kill them based on stuff like that. He's like, that's a bit dodgy, isn't it? And then he stands up and says, so wait, everyone here, you all like that you're gonna kill children? And what I love the close up on Ethan Hawke's face is it's very calm, right? It's very calm, but then you can sort of like see this like twitch happening in his face because he doesn't like that he's telling him that he's a bad guy. He's the person that's killing children, right? For this bigger reason, right? So he's like, yeah, no, I don't like that. And then all of a sudden, his wife comes in and says, I have the scarab. And then all of a sudden, they start to run, and she's like, change, you need to change. And as they're running, he's like, I don't know what you mean. What do you mean change in the suit? What do you mean? She just keeps saying change into the suit, change into the suit, and he's like, I don't know what you mean. So she comes in, saves him, starts to fight someone. They start running through the caverns or building or whatever they're in, and then Ethan starts to summon another one of those death jackals or whatnot. Right. So as he runs, they take the scarab. They run out of the building. As they run out of the building, they're in this one room trying to escape, and they can't. And then all of a sudden, the jackal busts in. Leia doesn't see it. He doesn't see it. Only Steve sees it, and he's freaking out. Like, what are you talking about? But yet, he's physically there. You just can't see it because only the people that are, I guess, chosen or part of the cult can see the demon. I'm not really sure how that works, like who and who can't see it, but he can see it. Can only the people that are possessed by a god? Chat, is that what it is? Like Ethan can see it, Steve can see it because he has God Khonshu. You gotta admit, uh, like is that why they can see it, but nobody else, or can everyone with the scales on their arms see the demon? I wasn't really too clear about this. Anyway, she finally figures out that there is someone there, and she stabs him and hits him. Here's the thing I didn't like about this episode. And I know it's a comic book, and I know it's based in reality and whatnot, but when she gets hit by a demon dog, okay, or should I call it devil dog? When she gets hit hard. She's not a superhero. Doesn't have any power in any way, shape, or form. Do you know what I mean? I think it's only the avatars of the gods. Okay. Right. I didn't know if the rest of the people could see it, like the people that were chosen by the god, right? To live on. Maybe they can see it. So what I like though, as he falls out and he's about to splat on the ground, he gets hit, he hits his head, which then makes him, I guess, come up with the idea of the suit. So he comes down and lands a superhero move, and he's Steve Grant as Moon Knight, or Mr. Knight, I guess, is the guy's name. And he's wearing a suit. Not like a suit, like a superhero suit, but he's wearing a suit. And Mark says, what the hell have you done here? Right? We look like you're supposed to use the ceremonial armor of Khonshu, not this psycho Colonel Sanders, which I thought was pretty funny. Now, what I don't like about this, now I did call this, by the way. Last week we talked about this. I said that maybe Mr. Knight, we looked it up afterwards, like on the thing, and saw the 3 different things. I said maybe when Steve becomes Moon Knight, he becomes Mr. Knight and becomes that's his personality inside the suit. Where when Mark Spector is Moon Knight, what we saw at the end of last episode, that is Mark Spector's Moon Knight, right? Maybe there is a third that turns out to be something else. What I didn't like about, because up to this point, we didn't really see Steve like kind of break jokes or anything like that. We just saw him as a disheveled, very confused, very, very perturbed person. But all of a sudden, right, all of a sudden he becomes Moon Knight, and Steve Grant, is now Moon Knight, not Mark Spector. And he's very like joking. Like, I understand, like, it's like if you put on a superhero suit for the first time, you're like, hey, look at me, I'm Spider-Man, or type of stuff like that, right? Just as a regular person. Like, he's dressed up and he's like, oh, what are these? And he's looking at the sticks, and all of a sudden he's just getting punched and moved around and kicked and slammed up against cars and choked. And obviously he's brand new. He just got his powers. Now, Mark Spector's been Moon Knight for technically could be years to decades at this point. We don't really know how long Mark Spector has been Moon Knight in this situation. Okay. Now, Steve is just becoming Moon Knight, or Mr. Knight, for the very first time. So obviously he doesn't know his powers. He doesn't know what he can do. And I get all this. I get all this, right? So obviously he's got strength, so he's not getting destroyed by the demon dog. Okay? He's getting dragged apart, and he gets one good shot on the dog. But when he's like, does the Muhammad Ali quote, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, and he's like, I'm gonna kill you. He's moving up his. I didn't really like that aspect of Steve Grant as the character. To me, it didn't work. I'm not saying I hated it. It just didn't work for me because we didn't see any kind of playfulness like that from Steve Grant's character, right? Leia's still fighting. She's getting dragged, and then Moon Knight starts to hit him with a tire, and he starts to fight, takes his jacket off. They start fighting, gets slammed up against a bus. If you notice on the bus, it says GRC. Now, the GRC was in Falcon and Winter Soldier. Falcon and Winter Soldier showed you that the reason for GRC is basically it's the snap, is to help people come back and like get familiar again, because after the 5 years they were gone. So that alone shows that Moon Knight is in the same universe, the same storyline, the same stuff as. Now, I know someone's gonna be like, well, it could be a different universe. It's not. It's not. It's in the same thing. It's in the same timeline. Between the passport and now seeing the bus with the GRC on there, I believe that he's 100% in the exact same timeline as Hawkeye, as Spider-Man, as Doctor Strange, as the Snap, as everything else. Okay, as the Eternals, as everything. Okay, in London. Last time we saw someone in London, I think it was Blade at the end of Eternals getting the Black Knight. So I think there's going to be some sort of, at the end of this, some sort of Blade visiting him. Like, I guess Blade could be like the Nick Fury of this section of the MCU, right? He's putting together his own team. So as they're fighting, all of a sudden the car gets hit. He stands up and he looks at the reflection again of Mark Spector in the bus. And I really like how they're doing this reflection stuff back and forth between the guys. So Oscar Isaac's doing a fantastic job playing Steve Grant with the terrible accent, and then also playing Mark Spector. Yeah, I did see the Eternals in the opening Marvel logo. Yeah. So again, could link, right? Could link because they're there. Something small. All of a sudden, Mark says, look, just give me control. And he says, fine, do it. Boom, he turns in, and then he starts to fight. And then we got some really cool action sequence here as Moon Knight, right? You see him run up the building. He's getting chased by the guy. The costume looks cool. I have to admit, the costume looks really good. I think this is a really good costume design. I really think they've done a really good job with this costume. So he's running on the rooftops. He jumps down, grabs the demon dog, slams him on the thing, kills him, and then he's done. Then it cuts to the scarab on the ground. Some homeless guy picks it up, or some stranger picks it up. Ethan Hawke's character comes up to him and then murders him. Okay. Leia sees him doing this, so now she's a witness of the death. So obviously she's in danger moving forward, because you see, give him a little look. And then we have this confrontation between Mark and Steve. Mark is on the outside now. Now, we haven't seen this before yet, right? It's only one episode, 2 episodes technically. This is the end of the second episode. Mark is on the outside, and now Steve is on the inside of the mirror world, or inside the other dimension, world between worlds, I guess. Right. So, which makes me wonder if it's the world between worlds of like what we saw in Shang-Chi, right? Like a dimension in between. I don't know. But anyway, Steve starts to say, I don't like it. It feels weird here. It's like you get used to it, blah, blah, blah. Now, Mark's character is a much more, he's a military guy, right? He's not a casual person. He's not a citizen, right? He's not a pedestrian. When he got tossed into the realm, it's like, you get over it, blah, blah, blah. But Steve is just a normal person, right? He's scared. He's lonely. He's just doesn't know what's going on. He's confused. Now he's out there. He's like, let me out. And Mark's like, no, I've been in there long enough, blah, blah, blah. Let me do what I have to do. Let me finish this and whatnot. And then Khonshu comes and visits him and says, you know what we have to do, and boom. It cuts, and then all of a sudden we are in Egypt. And we see Mark on the ground, but it just seems really strange because to me, when I watched it, I was like, all right, so Mark got moved to Egypt. But is it Mark? Is it another split personality? Because the way he's acting, yes, we haven't seen Mark Spector out, but why would Mark be drinking like he is? Why would he do what he's doing? This might be the third personality that we see going into the next episode, right? Maybe this is a third character. Maybe they're only keeping it with 2. Maybe it is Mark Spector, right? But now he's in Cairo, and he's overlooking the pyramids. Obviously, he's there to stop Ethan Hawke's character from doing what he's doing, right? Overall, again, I thought the acting was fantastic by Oscar Isaac. Leia's character, they made it multiple times in this episode that if Mark or Steve don't do what Khonshu wants, that Khonshu is going to just replace them with his chosen next person, which is Leia. Now, obviously, Marvel has been doing this. Again, this is a brand new character that they're introducing, Moon Knight. I don't know if they're going to swap him out as fast as they did for Iron Man and Captain America and, and all the other characters that they're kind of like shifting away and bringing new characters in. Now, I don't know if Leia, by the end of the series, becomes Moon Knight. Okay. But I can say that because they mentioned it multiple times, I can see it happening. I can see Leia becoming Moon Knight. Now, I don't know if there's going to be a Moon Knight season 2. I don't know if this is a one and done. Maybe she becomes Moon Knight, and then maybe she becomes Moon Knight in like episode 4, right? And then all of a sudden in 5 and 6, she loses it and it goes back to Mark or Steve. I don't know. It just seems like something very, very strange because they make it a factor that, hey, if you don't like it, then we're just gonna give it to her, type of thing. I don't know. That's just a thought I had. Again, I thought the special effects were great. I thought the acting was fantastic. I love the cinematography. I thought the music was good again. This was a second episode so far out of all the Marvel shows. 2 episodes in, obviously, we still have more episodes to go. We have 4 more episodes to go. 2 episodes in, this is the best Marvel show that they've done between Loki, WandaVision, Falcon, What If, and Hawkeye. This is the best so far. For the first 2 episodes in, this is the best series so far, in my opinion. Just because they're really flushing out the story of, at least in my opinion, as a person that does nothing. I know nothing about Moon Knight from the comics. I only know from episodes 1 and 2. As a movie watcher or a TV show, they're doing a really good job explaining the characters. I'm following along. Maybe other people are lost, but I think they're doing a very good job letting us know who and what each of these characters are giving enough time, giving enough information about each of these characters, and also keeping us hooked and also keeping it very interesting moving forward. Overall, I think this is a great second episode of Moon Knight. I look forward to the third one. Hopefully it stays on track and it stays strong moving forward. Yeah, I think that's it. I love the episode. I think so far, the series is fantastic. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section down below. If you like this type of information, this content that we produce here by going over please make sure you share, like, and subscribe. The stream's not over. Just this section's over as my review. If I have to give this a score, I would give it like a 7.5, maybe an 8 for a second episode. I thought it was a very strong episode, writing-wise, information-wise, and still had action in it as well. I appreciate everyone watching, and now we're going to go into the call section of the show.